Yeah, it looks pretty dark. Looks pretty dark. Let me turn on all my lights so you can see my face. Ugh. My house is so dark. That must be better now, right? Can you see me now? There I am. Yeah, you can see me now. All right. There's one person watching. Hello. Good evening. Whoever, wherever you are. Oh, you just left. Okay. Well, yeah, I got to get rid of this couch. Get a better couch someday. So recently, I've been trying to force myself to be more outgoing, to be more extroverted. And it's not easy for me to be that way. It takes me a lot of effort to try to socialize with people. I have to say I'm regularly attending a 12-step. I'm going to 12-step meetings. And when I go to these meetings, most of the people there I have no affiliation or association with these people other than the common problem that we're trying to resolve or trying to overcome, trying to achieve a certain level of mastery over life and not be dependent upon substances for dealing with life, dealing with problems of life. So what happens is you go in this room and you follow a tradition. Everybody sits down. They take turns talking about the problem that they're having. And they're sharing their own, what's happened to them in their life because of this problem. How they're trying to overcome this problem, and then what they're anticipating into the future. Let's hope. Okay, experience, strength, and hope. But I don't want to be too specific about the meetings and what it involves. But if you know what AA is, you'll know what I'm talking about. So I quit my job that I had for 15 years. Walked into the office and I said, can't work here anymore. This is my last day. Goodbye. I didn't even give 2 weeks notice. They were closing things down. The company was closing its doors and moving, and they were becoming, instead of that company being a independent subsidiary of the main company, they were now branded. The product was a brand, not an individual company under the parent company. So they gave a certain date. We were going to blah, 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 close the doors at such and such a date. So I figured I'll just quit now. So I quit. Now I'm not employed. Now I'm free. I don't have a job. I wake up when I want to wake up. I go to the bathroom when I want to go to the bike. I stay at home most of the time. But I was finding myself kind of getting in a rut. You know what I'm saying? I was kind of finding myself that I was becoming more, not really, that the times I remember when I was at my job, when I was having to do the same thing every day, use the same software applications, which was, I worked in the office. So I used a certain number of software applications, but it was very, very repetitious. I would open up an application. I would manipulate the data. and then I would save the file, or I would import, export files, massage the data, and then import the data into another program, and then I would use a data processing software so I could categorize and integrate that part of the files into the main program, which was a how can I explain it? So we used CAD software, we used word processing software, we used a spreadsheet, and it was for parts catalogs for a large equipment manufacturer. So the company I worked for made a very large piece of mechanical, electrical, hydraulic equipment. And being made of a lot of different individual parts and subassemblies, it had to have a catalog, so that the user, whomever bought the equipment in the future, if something broke, they could order a new part. So what we did was we took the catalog that was just PDF. Well, it was originally paper. When I first started working there, everything was paper. So the parts catalog was, it was very cumbersome. So what they would do is they would have this big filing cabinet, and it would have the individual sections would be the master files for the parts catalogs. And then the parts catalogs would have the generic base that would be the same for those models. And then within that range of that one model, there would be variations of that, being the date of manufacture and the supporting original equipment that it was part of. So we would make equipment that would made up to an OEM, original equipment manufacturer. So there was each catalog, there was maybe between 12 and 15 different catalogs for those individual types of machines. So to make a parts catalog, you'd go and you'd pull the master files, you'd Xerox those, and then Xerox the base book, and you'd integrate those pages into that, and then you would make a paper parts catalog that way. But then we started using Adobe Acrobat, so we scanned all of the documents, and then from then on we would do print to PDF format out of the software apps that were used to generate the images into the parts books. So I did that, and then they over time, then they finally made it to where it was all electronic. So we used a special kind of software that was sort of like, it was like more HTML, but it was sort of like HTML, but it wasn't. But it was like you would update that one page, and then wherever that page was used in all of the different catalogs, the subgroupings of catalogs per whatever OEM equipment, or the engineered, how that machine, when it was built, their specific style of the machine or size of the machine would automatically update those pages within the catalog. So it was no longer a PDF file that you would have to open up like 20 different catalogs and update that same page in those catalogs. So it was more like it was all more automated. So gradually over time, I was doing that, and I do that, and that was my job there. It was just to update the catalogs, just update the parts books. And I was okay at it. It was like they really expected me to do a lot more than I was capable of doing. I think it's sort of like, well, we want you to do this now. They kept adding on more and more and more onto my responsibilities without like giving me any kind of substantial raises. I mean, it was just like, I get like I get like 2% a year on my annual review. So I would get like a raise of 2%. I wouldn't get like oh, wow, you're doing such a great job. We're going to give you like a 5% or a 10% raise, right? It was never anything like that. It was never anything like that. It was more, if they really needed somebody to do something, they would hire a new person, that they would hire them and they would use them specifically for that. They wouldn't, there was, as I was getting old, right? I'm old. So, I mean, so it's kind of hard when you're in your 60s and you're using computer software all the time on your job, and the company is continuously innovating, right? And they're continuously trying to improve their process and their and the machines, and they're they get new software all the time. Every year they get new software and it gets updated, and then there's new equipment, and there's you're constantly challenged to learn and update your skills. Now, if you're a young person in your 30s, even your 40s, it's pretty easy if you're quick on your feet and you're smart, and you can relearn everything, or you can go back to school and you can get retraining and get good at it and stay good at and stay sharp in the top of your field, so that your boss doesn't look at you and think, oh, this person, they're starting to get slow and they're not keeping up with everyone else, and why aren't they going back to school? How come they're not getting retrained? Why aren't they getting updating their skills and continuously re-educating themselves? And if they give you a carrot, if they put a big carrot in front of you and say, yeah, if you do this and this and this, we'll give you this and this, and we'll give you this much more money, right? There was really no like, hey, if you do this, we'll give there was no like incentive. It was more like, just do the same thing every day, but we want you to be faster at it, right? We won't pay you more, but we want you to be able to do it faster. And you know what? Another thing that I think bothered my employer about me was that even my fellow employees, is I would come in. I was supposed to be there at 8 o'clock in the morning, right? Well, everybody else there, they would come in at 6 a.m., right? And they'd be right at their desk at 6 a.m. and I'd be coming in there at like 8, and people would starting to think, well, how come you're coming in late every day, right? Well, I was coming in at 8 because that's what they, that's what my boss had set it up that way. So, yeah, sometimes I'd come in at 7:45, right? But it was like, they had a 401k plan there, and which is like, they'll match for every up to 1.5%. They'll match put $1.50 up to 1.5% of what you put in, which is okay. It was like pretty good. I mean, but the problem with the 401k plan is that they don't really want you to be a good investor. As an employee, if you're too successful in something else other than your job, then you'll quit, right? So they don't want you to get really good at investing or have a side hustle. So if you were like, if they had it set up to where you had a 401k plan, and they had really good investment choices within that plan that would give you like 10, 15, 20, or 25% return on average of your investments that you put into it, then they would go, well, we don't want our employees to be too successful because they'll retire early, right? So it was like that. I was always suspicious of, well, they're probably going to want you to, yeah, you have a retirement account, right? But they don't want you to be too good at it, right? So they'll give you these funds. They'll give you a limited amount of funds that you have to choose from, and they're really like, I mean, dog shit they're dog shit funds, right? They only pay they're like they don't you can't look at the holdings. You don't know what companies are in the holdings of those funds, and then they're vague about, well, they say you'll get such and such amount of return over this and this amount of time, but they don't. That's all based upon the optimum time that you put money into it, right? So if you're like really heavily investing during a down market, and the market goes into a plateau and then it goes back up, then yeah, you'll do that. You'll do that as good as they're saying that you can do. But generally, most of the time, you're just dollar cost averaging in when the market's up and when the market's down, which is something like, I'm not a financial advisor, so I mean, just take this is what I do, right? I'm like, they give you the option to reinvest dividends, right, on your stocks, right? If you buy this stock, they'll give you, like your brokerage will say, well, you do want to automatically reinvest that. Well, that to me, it's always seemed like, well, then if you do that, maybe that's not the right time, right? Maybe when you get the dividend from that, maybe that's not the best time to reinvest it. Maybe you need to like use that money and invest it in something else, or wait until the price of the stock goes down, and then you'd want to buy it, not just exactly at the time you get a dividend. So I always never do that. I always opt out of reinvesting dividends. But the only time I wasn't doing that was when I had a mutual. When I first started as an investor in a 401k plan, I let them do that. In the but they were mutual funds, so it was more spread out, I guess. It wasn't more, it's really, they say it's really hard to time the market too. So, and it is. But I don't buy meme stocks. I don't buy cryptocurrencies. I don't invest in bubbles, right? Bubble stocks. So if you're watching the news and you go, oh wow, hey, everybody's jumping in on this one, right? Oh, they're making all this money. So and so made all this money, and they bought the stock, and then they sold it, and they made all this money. And then that's, by the time you hear about that in the news, it's too late. See, you should have been just doing your own homework and figuring it out for yourself, which companies are in the best position that you think will benefit from the market conditions at the time, right? So if you're like seeing all these baby boomers, right? All these baby boomers are all retiring now, and they're like taking vacations, and they're like staying at hotels and going and flying places, and these baby boomers are like, they're retiring, they're like going on like so there's a demographic, right? You think about an age group of people, there's a demographic of an age group of people, and that demographic of an age group of people, they're the ones that have all the money, and they have a certain their spending habits are in their age group. There's certain spending habits that they're using, and so that those kinds of industries are doing well because there's a lot of people right now that are in that age group. I know this is going to sound morbid, but if you look at like companies that are like, or businesses that are in the funeral business, or like they make like crematorium equipment like that. I was investing in this one company that makes that sort of thing, and I'm looking at the price. I'm thinking, oh, it's too expensive. The P is too high or whatever. I'm waiting. And then the price goes down, right? Maybe they have a lousy earnings, right? Maybe they have a really shitty quarter and their earnings will go down. So a lot of people jump ship, right? This company's not going to make any money. So everybody, they sell. So it gets oversold, goes into a big dip, right? Well, that's a time to pick it up, right? You could get maybe a discount. Maybe you get that stock at a discount. So you buy it, you're keeping your eyes open, and you're paying attention to the market and what's going on. You're watching the stock, and you see that one stock and you want to buy it, right, over time, but you just don't, you're not impulsive. Well, this is the problem I've had. I go, I want it, I want to buy it, and I just buy it without thinking about maybe it's not the right price point. I'm dumb, and I just buy it like right then and there, and it's like, oh, and then it goes down, right? So I'm like going, oh shit, I spent like a chunk of money on a bunch of stock on this one company, and I should have just like tested the waters first, right? Maybe bought one share, right, and held on to that one share, and like maybe took a couple days or a week or a month and kept my eye on it and watched it, see if that stock would keep going down. And if it kept going down, it would get more into a bargain price point, and I'd pick it up for cheaper. And then I go, dang, why did I buy it when it was that price? I could have waited, and I could have got it way at a cheaper price. So there's a lot of that goes on. I think that's the worst. That's a bad, that's a fear of missing out. They call it FOMO. But that's kind of worse than a FOMO. It's like, now the other thing is that you go, oh, it went up. Now I can sell it. I can take a profit. So you sell it, right? And you completely close your position. And then as time goes on, the stock keeps going up, and you go, oh, why did I sell all of it? I should have just sold like maybe 10% or 15%. And then because the prices keeps going up and up and up, and you're like kicking yourself because I could have held on to it and I could have had more money. But sometimes you get lucky though, right? Sometimes you get lucky and you do sell it, and then it goes down. So you feel, oh, good. Glad I got out of that because the price went down. Whew. Wow, I'm glad I got out of that. I made some money and I got out of it. And then now the price is down. So, but limit orders are like, especially low volume stocks, always do limit orders. Never do a market order on a low volume stock, because you'll get screwed, and you'll go, wow, I thought it was going to be that price when I sold it at, or I thought I was going to buy it at that price. And why is it now? How come I got it so high? But you did a market order, and it was dumb because somebody would like, there was nobody hardly selling it. And the person that did want to sell it at the time, they were asking a really high price. And that just happened to be the lowest price. And you get it at that price. And you're thinking you're going to get it at this ticker symbol price. And it's not. Because the bid price is like, if you're asking a crazy amount for that stock and there's low volume, and then somebody just, like an impulsive person that doesn't know better, they just say, I want to buy it no matter what price, market, give me it at that market price. Well, then the guy out there, he's got this really high price, and he's the one that's the lowest on the amount of people. There's might be 100 people that are trying to sell that stock, and his price just happens to be the lowest, which is like really high. And you get it at that price, and then you're going, wow, I didn't want it at that price. I wanted it at that price. So I don't know. Maybe other people, I don't know. I don't know very many people that are investors. Like in my circle of people I know, like I was telling you, I'm in AA right now. And I messed up though, because I had a cannabis infused beverage, right? So it sent me back, and it was like, now I have to start over, which is okay because I was using it a lot. I was smoking a lot of it too, and it was kind of messing me up emotionally, because like here I was, I'm like grieving, right, the loss of loved ones, that I've lost people I love in my life, and I'm sad, and I'm crying and grieving, and I'm all by myself, and then I get high and I feel better. Oh, I feel, oh, blah, blah, blah. I'm not worried. I'm not so much grieving. And then I would like come down, and I'd be okay for a while. And then I'd start getting sad again and grieving again. And I'd start doing that. And I felt I was in a dangerous place, because I don't want to slip with booze. Because booze has been my bane of my existence, is booze. Booze is, any kind of booze is like, I know right now that I can never drink any alcohol again. And for me, it just would be a matter of time. I might be okay getting away with drinking. And then all of a sudden one day I drink and I drink a lot and I get all messed up. And then I would like, oh, but my own past is my testimony to myself on my inability to control my drinking. It wasn't so much not being able to drink, and like 9 times out of 10 I would drink and I go, oh, I've had enough. One is enough. I can put it aside and just not drink. All right. But then that one time, right, it would be something would happen to me and I'm just going to get drunk. All right. Well, I get drunk because I feel like it. And I'd like just, and that was a time that was dangerous for me. I was in a dangerous place because like, I don't know. It's hard to explain. It was like growing up, people I knew that was like, God, I don't want to be alone all the time. I was in high school, and I think it was like when you're a kid, at least when I was a teenager, I didn't want to just be alone all the time. I wanted to like have friends, right? People that I could like hang out with and be a part of a group and like, so I was like young, and I was like susceptible to peer pressure, and it was like, hey, we're all gonna get together. We're gonna have somebody go to the liquor store and get us some booze. Or I know somebody, their parents are gonna be gone. They have a liquor cabinet. We'll go over to their house, or we're gonna meet up at this place. That's like an isolated area where no one was around, and we get booze and we go and drink there because there weren't any adults around. We were like teens, and a lot of it was and it's like, you can, if you drank a lot, then that was your way of proving that you were like a strong person, right? Or you were like cool, hey, he can drink a lot, I can outdrink you. I'll drink you. Or you sit around a poker table, right, with your friends after school or out on the weekends, and they're like, everybody's like, the parents that a guy knew, his parents would buy him booze, and they'd say, you can drink, just don't leave the house, just stay here and you can drink. We'll get booze for you. So they'd get him booze, and then we bring our own booze over. Like I'm saying, we'd find somebody that was older that would buy it for us. Or we go to a store and we look older, right? And they didn't ask for ID, so we just go buy booze. So there was a lot of that in my youth. And unfortunately, my habits of my youth kind of carried over into my adulthood with booze, and it wasn't good. It was not good at all. And I was like, I dodged a lot of bullets too. It was only up until like when I was in my late 30s, and that was, I got into some situations where I was around other people that were volatile, and it was dangerous, and I would lose my temper. And I shouldn't have. I should have been able to de-escalate the situation, and I wasn't able to. So I don't know. I guess a lot of other people have problems with booze too, but they won't admit it. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know who's on here watching me. It's a mystery. I see two, but I don't know who they are. If they could just type in hello or hi, then that'd be cool. I'd know who I was talking to. Okay, goodbye. I guess that's kind of the downside of this, is that the people, they want to remain anonymous, So, but if there was another way of like of chatting in a room where it could be like a Zoom call, maybe that would be more like it. Because anybody that would enter a Zoom call, even if they weren't actively engaged, their name would still be in the room. They would show up. Whereas this is, you got someone that comes in, and then you don't know who is in there. You just see that there's one person watching, but you don't know who it is. It could be that might be a bot. Google might have a bot that they just put in if you're on a live chat to make it like there's someone there when there's really not. This is live chat, and so this is like one of the only times that I've come on here and I haven't been under the influence of cannabis. Usually I'll smoke a little cannabis and then I'll come on here and I'll talk. Just because it's like, it doesn't matter. I mean, I'm not like, there's no boss. My employer is not watching me. You know, I don't have to worry about going back to work or being in a position where the company I work for will say, well, people see you and you represent us, so we don't want you to be out and we don't want you to be on social media, and because they might see you and you represent our company, or maybe like they're a neighbor and you don't like them, and they could be watching and listening to you and you wouldn't know that, and they could like hear you say something, or it's just the idea of that, just the idea that you're putting yourself out in public. And it's kind of like if this were an auditorium, the stage would be like really dark, and there'd be a spotlight on you, and then the audience would be, I think I mentioned this before, the audience would be like these silhouettes. You'd look out in the audience, it'd be dark, and then you'd see like silhouettes of people out there. You wouldn't be able to see them, but you just see a silhouette of them. And I guess that's kind of like what the icon is up there. So I don't know where I'm going with this. I like these guys. They're called First Amendment auditors. And what they do is they take their cameras out and they have a monopod, and they have their camera on a monopod, and then they'll have like several cameras running right at the same time. And then they just walk along the sidewalk out in public, and they're either like they're walking by storefronts. Sometimes like the ones that they get, the business owners will come out and like they'll ask, who are you? What are you doing? You know, why are you here filming? You know, and they're like, they're on the sidewalk, they're on public property, and they're with their camera, right, filming, and they have their camera and they're pointing it at them, watching them, and they're like getting mad because they're not talking and answering them back. They're asking them questions. Who are you? Why are you here? And they're just being quiet, right, and just pointing their camera. And so then they say something like, "You're on private property. If you got to leave, this is private property. This is my business. Why are you filming my business?" And so they won't say anything. And then they'll finally get mad and they'll go, "We're going to call the police." So they get their phone out, and they start taking their picture, right? And like getting mad because they're on the street and they're filming their business, right? It might be like a dispensary, right? Cannabis dispensary. And they don't want their customers being like filmed, right? Coming and going out of their business, or like they have the camera pointed right through their window, right? And they have their business there and they're showing the inside of it's not private. I mean, you can look through the storefront window and see people buying the cannabis products at the counter, and then they're coming out. But the people that are running the store are like, "Oh, you can't be filming our customers," right? Or it's like a business and they have the bay door open, and they're like, they have some machinery in there, they're boxing something up, or they have a forklift coming and going, and they're moving things out and they're loading it on a truck, and they'll be in an alleyway, right? And they'll have their cameras out there and they're like filming the business and what they're doing and how they're bringing stuff out of their shop and putting it loaded. And then the owner of the company will come out, or the employees will say, "Hey, what are you doing? Who are you? Why are you filming us? Get out of here, get out of here. Stop filming us." And like, they're just sitting there with their camera, and finally, like sometimes people that are dumb, right, will come out and like try to grab their camera, or like there's a physical altercation with them, and they have pepper spray. So they're like, they take that pepper spray out and they pepper spray them. And it's like, if you see a guy on the sidewalk that's filming in public, all right, well, and you're in the United States, of course, they have a right to do that. They have a right to walk down the street in a public place and film whatever they can see. and there's nothing anyone can do about it. Now, if somebody wants privacy, then they'll put up a barrier right on their property. They'll put something up that will screen that so that there's privacy, and that someone that's doing a First Amendment audit can't just go around, film them, and see what they're doing if they're concerned about that. So it's kind of it's funny too. And then they have their own language. They have make up their own words like blah, 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 blah. They'll talk to each other, blah, 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 blah. So they sound like they're foreigners, and somebody will come out and try to communicate with them and speak Spanish to them, or say, what do you want? Why are you here? What are you doing? Why are you filming us? Right. So it's kind of funny. And I watch those, and then I watch other people that are, I don't know. The people that just get on here and talk about their own life and what's happening to them, they're really rare. That people just don't get on here and talk about like their personal life and what's happening to them. They only get on here because they have a product they're trying to sell, or some kind of service they're selling, or a book they're selling, or they just are specifically trying to sell the idea of that. And it's just about that 99% of the time. It's the people that get on here are really rare, when YouTube first started, it was more common for just average people to get on here and start talking about what was going on in their life. It was more like, so they wanted to socialize. They wanted to find like-minded people, that they could like communicate with, and use YouTube as like a filter, right? So you're kind of trying to use the internet as this platform as a way of finding out where are the other people that are think like me, right? That have the same, that philosophically are aligned with that value what I value philosophically, or think along similar lines. And that it's okay, like being vegan, right? If you're a vegan and you live in an area that's that's a rural area, or even a suburban area, then you might find someone that's vegan, but they're usually that way because they're trying to lose weight or it's for their health, right? The doctor says, oh, you got high cholesterol, blood sugar's high, your blood pressure's high. And they go and they start reading about dieting and all that. And they only are a plant-based diet because they want to lose weight, or they want to get their complexion to look better, be thin, more healthy, and that's fine. That's, but the people that are ethical vegans are and that's kind of where I was going with questioning my own sanity. Am I really crazy to believe that a non-human animal has a form of consciousness? Whereas when I get on here and I start listening to vegans and listening to people that are promoting animal rights or veganism, they seem like what they say to me is sane. It seems to me like they're the ones that are sane, the people that are recognizing that other forms, non-human animals, are conscious, and that of respect, and that of a concern for the well-being, or what another is experiencing in their own life, and they don't want someone else to have to go through those kinds of experiences just to satiate them and their palate, right? And so for them, they say, oh, the cost is too high. What that animal has to go through to be a food, from a flavor to satisfy me nutritionally, and the flavor is not worth that price that animal has to go through. So, and this is there's some gray areas too. There's okay, well, that the apple that you bought, right? Those apple orchards were fertilized, and the fertilizer that was put on those apple orchards came from cow manure. So you're not you say you're for animals and that, but you're still using the animal was used to fertilize the plants that you're eating. So there's that, and then there's the necessity of animal agriculture too. It's just so prevalent and so ubiquitous, and so we're immersed in an animal agricultural culture. Here in the West, especially in the northern areas too, where it's a given that you're just a meat eater, right? That people that are like vegans because they want to acknowledge that, okay, they want to be able to like look at themselves in the mirror. I mean that more metaphorically. You can close your eyes and you can just think of yourself as a person. And what kind of person do you really want to think of yourself as? You want to think, oh, I'm a good person, I'm a decent person, I'm nice, I'm kind, I'm good to other people, I'm productive, and I want other people to like me, blah blah, and on and on and on along those lines. So I'm just saying that's like looking in the mirror, right? So you're kind of like, you look at yourself and you do a thorough examination of what you are as a person, and then you look at what you're eating and are like, wow, I'm eating that, and that's what that thing had to go through to get to my plate. And then you say, no way, I don't want to be a part of that anymore. So a lot of the veganism, especially ethical vegans, people think like along those lines. They don't think like, I'm going to try to lose weight, I want to like make my skin look better, I want to stay healthier and more lively and more like less have good cholesterol and that. They're not thinking more like, they think of more like if they were in that animal's place, right? So and that's where I was going with, like, are you crazy? Are you crazy when you think, oh, you could have been that animal? No, you could have never been that animal. You're a human being. You've always been a human being. You're going to be a human being for the rest of your life. How do you know what that animal's feeling? How do you know that cow or that pig or that chicken or turkey or fish or whatever? How do you know that it was numb, that it was just like asleep, it was reflexive, but it was sleeping. It was asleep most of the time, and it was just a reflexive thing that was, and I think there's a lot of rationalization. I think when a vegan approaches somebody that's a non-vegan, the non-vegan person will immediately become defensive and rationalize why they think like veganism, it's too inconvenient, it's too expensive, that no one else around them is vegan. Why should I be if no one else is? It's too, and they kind of just give in to the culture, and they don't really like take a firm stand and make a decision that, wow, the vegans are right. These animals do suffer. It is exploitation, right? It is a kind of slavery. Even though it's like accepted and legal and like part of the culture, it's still, and that's where I'm saying you take a hard look at yourself in the mirror, and you look into yourself and you look at how you're living, see how you're living and how it's affecting. Well, maybe you really aren't. Maybe the people that you think are spiritual, right? Or you think these people are spiritually advanced, if they're wearing a badge of, I'm a religious person, or I'm spiritual, or I'm holy, or I'm a follower, or blah blah blah, I'm in this group and we're superior because of our ethics, right? And then they're still eating meat or using animal products, then that's a red flag right there. It should be like, if the test is, if somebody's really a spiritual person, then they should be vegan. That should be your test, right? If they don't pass that test, or if they say they're an ethical person, right, and they go and espouse ethics and all that, and they're not in their life, they don't live what they're talking, that'd be another red flag right there. And I was like, I'm so disappointed, and I find out people that are really credible scholars out there, right? I find that they're really good writers, or they're really good speakers, and they have a lot of good ideas and they make sense. But on the other hand, they're not vegan, and it like, well, shouldn't they be a vegan? I mean, don't they think animals, if they're talking about animal rights and they're saying how love and all this and they're Christian, wouldn't that be like a given? I mean, I don't know, it's like, so it's a litmus test. I guess you could say a litmus. Is that the right word? Litmus test for that, metaphorically speaking. But it's almost like the only vegans I know are the vegans that I know online. It's kind of, I don't know any vegans in real life. Even in my family, my they say, oh, I'm a vegetarian, right? Well, you don't really get it then. If you're still a vegetarian is kind of like somebody that's just doing it for health reasons mainly. Yeah, what's a litmus test? It's called litmus test. Litmus test. But I'm just using that as a metaphor. Litmus test meaning. Here it is. Okay, a test for acidity or alkalinity. A decisively indicative test. Opposition to the nomination become a litmus test for political support of candidates. Oh, opposition to the nomination became a litmus test for political support of candidates. So yeah, it's a metaphor. So if there's somebody that you like to listen to and you admire them and they seem like they're really smart and they have a lot of credibility on a subject that, and then you find out they're not vegan, it's like, why aren't they vegan? You'd think if they knew all this stuff, right, and they're really a sympathetic person that's compassionate, that they say they understand what empathy is and compassion, and they're not a vegan. It's like, and I find this at like, it's like I'm ashamed to say it, but it's like, if you go to church, because if you want to socialize with people, but you don't want to go to a bar, or you don't want to go to a nightclub, or you don't want to, or the options for meeting other people are like, the only way you can meet other people is to go to church, but if you're atheist, then you don't go to church and tell people you're atheist. You go to church and you just go along with everyone else, and you put on an act and pretend like you're a Christian. And physically, on the surface, you are a Christian. Everybody would think, oh, he's a Christian. He says the words, he closes his eyes, he holds his hands up, he prays, he follows he sings with everybody else at the church, right, and all that. But but really, you're really going to church just because you just want to socialize with people, right? I mean, they might, but inside you're thinking, this is really idiotic, I'm just going along with it, but it's stupid. I don't really believe this stuff, but I'll just go along with it anyways because it's fun. They have music, and it's like a party, right? And there's other people. Yeah, you meet and greet other people and say hello and all that. Because otherwise, you're just sitting around at home and there's no one. You're not, like me. I don't drink, all right, so I don't go to bars. So it's kind of weird to say, like, God, you go to like a 12-step program, right? And one of the tenets of their whole thing is believing in a God, right? Or a God as you understand that God. And you have a problem, right? And you're trying to resolve, you're trying to get stronger as a person. You're trying to learn about how to live better and not have that same problem and avoid it and get on with your life. But you take everything in, but you kind of say that one part of it is like you go along with it, but you really don't believe it. You say, yeah, I believe in a God. Well, you really don't. You think it's stupid, but you go along with it because, hey, I'd be sitting at home by myself, but I don't want to just sit around at home by myself. So I'll just go to this place where that's one of their tenets is believing in a God, and I'll just pretend. I'll just say, yeah, I believe in a God. Yeah, I believe. Oh, yeah, ho, ho, ho. and say prayers and act like you're just and act like everyone else, right? But really you don't. So, but I guess if you live in a major city, let's say you live like downtown in a major urban area, you're probably going to find like-minded people more easily than if you live in a rural area. Because you live in a rural area and everybody goes to church. Just about everybody's religious. Just about everybody's like eating meat, all the time. Or so it's like, well, you can't fight it, right? I mean, you can, if you do, you're just going to be all alone all the time. So yeah, it's one of those things like, wow, I live where I live because my job is here, because I have work nearby. So I'm going to live where I have a job, right? So wherever I have a job, I'll just move there and live close to where I work. It wasn't like I was like sitting at my desk in high school and I was looking at the map of the United States and I was thinking, oh, wow, I want to go and I want to live there someday. I dream about living there. Oh, I want to live at that place. And then you're like, get to be a certain age and then you just moved there and live there because you wanted to live there. It didn't work like that for me. It would have been nice, but it didn't work like that for me. It was more like look in the newspaper for jobs, right? Look for jobs, find a job, call them up, send them a resume, write them a letter, call them up, go there, go to these employment agencies, and then wherever I get a job, hey, that's where I move where I get a job. So it's not like, I guess if you're like a trust fund kid and you got a pile of money and you don't have to worry about where working, you could kind of live wherever you want to live, then you have more of a choice, which is, I guess some people have that, but that was never the case for me. I had to keep moving because of jobs. And then when I did get a job, it was very routine. It was just doing the same thing over and over and over again every day. So I started out in high school. I liked mechanical drafting. That was my thing, was like getting on the drafting table and drawing on machine parts, and doing like dimensioning and using different pencils and making an image of mechanical parts and machine parts and drafting that up. And to me, that was fun. To me, that was like going to class that was kind of like an art class, but it wasn't really art. It was more kind of a combination of math and art, I guess you could say, is mechanical drafting. But if I had to go back in time, if I was talking to somebody that was younger, that was getting ready to graduate high school, I would say try to go into something where you can like live anywhere and do that. If you can live anywhere in the world and be successful at doing that profession, then that's the kind of profession you should pursue. Which to me, it was more like, well, it was like I liked doing it, but there wasn't, I couldn't get a job close by to where I lived at the time. I had to keep moving. I had to keep relocating to places that were hiring in that kind of work, especially mechanical drafting. Because that was at the tail end of the baby boomers, and everything was going on in the computer when I finished school. So my skills were outdated. I didn't know CAD, and everybody was looking for people with CAD experience, which just happened to be people with a 4-year engineering degree in mechanical engineering. They were the ones that were getting the training on CAD. And I didn't get that. I had to go to that IT&T technical and learn AutoCAD. That was back in 1988. And that was like, they had the Sumagraphics digitizing tablet with all the symbols for like circle, square, straight, horizontal line, vertical line, trimming. It was all wireframe, 2D with a pen plotter. So I learned that. I learned AutoCAD, and I got a job working at this place, and they didn't use AutoCAD. They used CAD Key. And they were a mold company. They made lost wax investment molds. So I don't know where I'm going with this. I'm talking to 3 people, but I don't know who they are. But that's okay. See that over there? That's a barber cabinet. and that's an elliptical, and that's a stovepipe to a wood stove that I hardly use because it pollutes the air. I don't live in an area where if I lived and I didn't have anyone else living around me and I had like 5 acres around me or like more room around me, I would probably use that more in the winter time. But as it is now, I only use that if my power goes out or if it gets really, really cold. I'll put a log on and heat the house overnight. But I think I've made other videos where I showed what I do in the winter to insulate my house, which is kind of like sometimes I think I've been abandoned here. It was like when my wife passed away, she left me here, and that's weird. You think about that. If somebody dies, it's like they leave you here, because you're still here. If it's your parents or if it's someone that you're a friend of, because they don't leave and then go away, and then you can always that they're there and you can contact them again if you had to. They go away and then you'll never contact them again. So I have to adjust my life to be to not use cannabis or drink too, which I've been sober since 2001, which the exception was the cannabis, the drink I had that was the THC infused drink that I had. But I didn't get drunk on that. It was just like a couple eyedroppers full of it. It had a THC in it. It was Everclear and it had THC in it, but I didn't get drunk on it. I did get stoned, but I didn't get drunk. But I'm redoing my start date. So my start date is my date where I've stopped using cannabis. I'm not saying that I enjoy it, right? I really liked getting high on cannabis. To me, it made me feel really good. It took away my angst, my like anxiety, my this life is I'm depressed. I can't, I'm like not wanting to face how I was feeling. I didn't like I was feeling depressed and lonely and I was missing someone, and I just like smoked cannabis and it was like, I feel good now. But that was like not really facing reality. And I know there's a lot of other people. I'd say if you're going to do one or the other, if you had a choice to whether, and you live in a legal state or cannabis is legal, I would say don't drink, use cannabis, and you'll be much better off for it. Your health will be better. And your mental health will be better, and you'll be healthier for that. If you have a problem with alcohol and you're like somebody that cannot just have one drink, or maybe you can have one drink most of the time, but then other times you drink to excess, and you get so drunk that you lose control over your behavior, your decision making, you pass out, or you could get into a situation where it's dangerous, or that, then never drink again. That would be like, okay, if somebody says, if I could go back in time and talk to myself when I was a youth and say, hey, you know what? Don't ever, if you stop drinking and you never drink again for the rest of your life, never touch any alcohol. If I was a 19-year-old guy or a 20-year-old guy and I went back in time and I told myself that and I listened to myself, then I would have been so much more successful. I would have been so much more better off from that, because I did a lot of damage to myself. The times that I did drink excessively, I did damage. I damaged not only my health, but my reputation too, and my emotional health and my relationships, and that just tore everything up. This is like something I should have known when I was a lot younger, that when an adult says to you, you know what, why, if you're going to drink, why don't you just have like one beer? Or why don't you just have that one glass of wine and put it away? If somebody says that to you, then you might have a problem. It might be you should listen to them and then go and really evaluate yourself thoroughly, and make sure that maybe you have a problem. And if it does get out of hand, it'll just make your life hard. You'll just make your future will get you'll just create more difficulties for yourself than what's necessary. That, as opposed to somebody that, like, they can be sober for a long time, right? And then they have a celebration and they pop open a bottle of champagne or have a shot of whiskey or they drink a beer, and they just do it that one time, and then they can go for like days, weeks, months without ever drinking, and then they'll have a celebration and they'll open a bottle and they'll have like one drink, and then they'll never get drunk and fall down or pass out or throw up or or say things that they regret or do things they regret or get into trouble with the law, get arrested, or have to be go to the doctor and have to be hospitalized or put in a hospital or anything like that. If they can drink and nothing ever bad happens to them, they never get hangovers, they never lose friendships, they never lose their temper, they always can maintain themselves, and 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 and, and they're always capable and being sharp and have good judgment all the time, then they don't have a problem. It's just certain people that when they drink, it creates problems for them. They should not drink, they should quit, and they should never drink again. And if they have any problems staying that and being committed to their own, and they are aware of that, but they can't get out of that habit, right? Then they need to go to join it. They need to go to like an AA meeting, start looking up AA meetings and go to an AA meeting, and then they can get help, because there's power when it's just you by yourself and you're trying to quit something, right? It's hard to do, right? But if you can go to a place where there's other people that are all on that, focused on that one thing, then that's power. There's power there, and then you can get support for your intention. If you're saying if you've had too many bad hangovers, or you've been late for work, or you've like gotten embarrassed and you've drank and you were just bad things happen after you drank, and then you wake up the next day and you go, I'm going to quit. I'm never going to drink again. I don't want this to ever happen to me. But then you find yourself the next week or the next couple days or whatever, and you're drunk again, and you're doing the same thing again, and you don't like it, and you don't like yourself for being that way. Then you can find people that want to quit with you that'll make it a lot easier for you. So that would be my recommendation there. If you have a problem and it's a recurring problem and you're trying to quit on your own, it would be easier for you to do that. It's easier for you to do it that way than to have the police come to your house and arrest you because the neighbors called the cops on you, and then you go to a judge and you go to court, and then you hire a lawyer, and the lawyer says, well, you can make a deal, you can do a deferred prosecution, and if you go to AA meetings for 90 days and have a court slip signed, turn it into the magistrate or your probation department there at the court. They get to that point, but you don't want it to get to that point. Go to a meeting and do that, nip it in the bud, do it before it gets to that situation. So that's what I would do. And so I'm looking forward to the markets when they open tomorrow. It shouldn't be like, I'm not a financial advisor. This is what I do. So I do most of I don't trade. When I first started trading on Robinhood, right, because there was no commissions, right, it was dumb. I was doing a lot of swing trading. So I was doing like buy the stock and it'd go up, and then I'd sell. I'd close my position in that, and then I'd buy another one and it would go up, and I take profits. But that was like, to me, that's too much relying on luck, right? And so the more, I think, in the stock market, the more you're relying on luck, the lesser chances you'll have of making a profit over the long haul. So if you're investing and you're relying on luck too much, and you're jumping into something and then you're getting out of it, or you're just like, you don't care about what the company makes, you don't care about who, if they're, what kind of the, where they're, what their product is or what they make, and you only look at the numbers. And to me, that's like, you're not, maybe that's being, you're relying on luck too. But there are trends, and this is one thing I don't know. I don't notice a lot of other people doing investing with, um, making their main focus of their investing on, cruelty free, right? So they use that as a number one investment criteria. Any kind of investing in any kind of stocks, it has to be ethical, right? The most ethical types of industries, companies, businesses, they're that is a precedent, right? So that takes priority over, and then there's different levels. So then the next would be like, well, what about like climate change, right? What about this drought, right? These droughts that aren't going away. What about more severe weather, uh, loss of water, more severe weather, increase in temperature, more severe storms, flooding. Um, so I don't know why, but there is not so much, emphasis on that for long term investors. They don't. There's a lot of people that don't invest, and they don't think about climate change and how that will affect or could affect their portfolio. So it's never really an issue. They just talk about, oh, this company is like, their numbers look good. They have a good, their marketing is good. They have a good team in their management. The location of their business is around where there's a lot of innovation, or the country that the company is in is like more, backed by the government, or they're more, so there's not, if you're an investor and you're not thinking about climate change, how could you not think about, well, if you're a long-term investor and how can you not think about climate change? So, wow, I'm down. Yeah, year to date, I'm down 11%. On 3 months, I'm up 10%. 1 month, I'm up 4%. I'm looking at my whole portfolio on Robinhood. So if you open Robinhood, I don't know how many people use Robinhood. Yeah, last week or within 1 week, I'm down 5.6%. In 1 month, I'm up 4%. In 3 months, I'm up 10%. Year to date, I'm down 11%. The whole year, I'm down 17.4%. And when I go all for the last, since I've opened this account, I'm up 26%. So that it's kind of weird, I mean, I look at my overall average that I've done since I've opened this account, and I'm doing that's pretty good, 26%, right, on a return since 2018 is when I opened this account. But when I go 1 year, right, I'm down 17%. So the market, I believe, right, it still can go up considerably, because you have to factor in, if you own part of a company and there's inflation, wouldn't a hedge against inflation be owning the part of that company, because you're owning the equipment, you're owning the licenses, you're owning any patents, you're owning the facilities, the infrastructure of that business. So that all of that is still locked in to the original cost, right? Whatever the dollar costs of those original facets of the business were, if inflation has been what, if the inflation, the real amount of inflation has been like 15%, then you, if the company is, if you believe in what they do and you know they're worth more than that, so it's trying to determine, are they really worth as much as that is their market price? It's you really got to do your homework. You really got to be careful, because you can get really fast. You can lose a lot of money really quick if you're not careful about what you're doing. And that brings to mind like meme stocks, right? Which is like, you hear about this one stock and everybody's going in on it and they're buying it, and it's some rich person's buying a whole bunch of shares and it's making the price go way up, because it's like maybe a handful of people, right? They have a lot of money and they can move the price. They can make the price go up a lot, right? But you're not in on that. I mean, you're not in the inner circle, so you don't know. You're just seeing the price go up, and then you jump in because you see, oh, the price goes up. So you jump in and buy it, and then the price goes down. And that's dumb. And it seems like a lot of people are, it seems like a normal strategy for investors is to, they watch a stock, and then when they see it starting to go up, then they buy it. And that seems to be the common way of buying stocks, is they watch a stock, and if they see it go up, and then they buy it when it's going up. But for me, what I do is, lots of times if I see something go up and it's still dollar cost averaged, I'm still down, and I'm dollar cost average down. Even if it goes up a lot, I don't usually sell it. But if something that I have is like, I'm up like 5 or 10% on my dollar cost average, and then it goes up like 15 or 20%, then that's when I usually take profit. I'll usually take a 10 or 15, 20% off the position and use that and move the money into something that, like, they have an earnings report and their guidance is like, they do good, right? And they have a good earnings report, but their guidance is terrible. And then the rich people jump out. The big money moves out of the stock, and the stock goes down a lot, spikes down. That's the time I usually go in, and I buy more of that. I'll usually buy in at that point. I'll usually wait, but sometimes I won't wait. Sometimes I'll just buy it right away when it's at that down. I'll do a market order and I'll buy it low, and then it goes, it gradually moves back up a little by little, incrementally over a few days or a week or a month. So I see that happen a lot, and but this is on my watch list. I have a certain watch list, and these are companies that, here's one I've owned for a while. It's just gone down, and it just like it hasn't gone up. And I'm waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. And it's in the automotive industry. You think of a car company. You think about, okay, electric car, right? Think about electric car, right? Okay, now think about most of these people that buy cars and new cars, or most people that own cars, they're only one person that's in the car most of the time. So I'm like, but the car is made to hold 5 people, right? Well, why can't you just make a car that's an electric car with all the bells and whistles, with the cameras and the auto driving and the electric seats, and the heating and that, and the air conditioning, and all of the functions and features that you would find in a high-end luxury electric car? Why isn't that there's a single-seater car? This is one I'm investing in, Solo Electromechanica. But they don't have any, I haven't heard any news from them. They don't have any, there's never any announcement or news, and they're, so I don't know. Maybe I'm holding out, and I'm not buying any more stock. I have 130 shares. I'm dollar cost averaging at $3.29, and I have 130 shares. It's currently at $1.53. So I'm in the red, $228 right now. But I'm thinking, wow, it's a good looking car, right? It's all electric, but it's a single seater. It only holds one passenger. The driver, it's a completely enclosed car, but three-wheeled, one driver. It'd be great if Tesla bought that company out and made a three-wheeled car and had a single seater car. That would be cool. So I'm holding out. I'm thinking another company will buy them out on that one. There's another one that I've been buying, Oatly Group, right? It's like, and they make a good milk, right? They make a good ice cream, or it's not cow's milk, it's oat milk, and it's good ice cream. And I'm really down on this stock. So Oatly Group is currently at $3.41, and I'm like down 54%. I own 300 shares. My dollar cost average is $7.42. So you can see that one, I'm like waiting. They're going to go up. And I'm thinking, with this drought, and I'm thinking it costs a lot of water to grow grain to feed a cow to produce milk or meat, right? So that in itself should be a trend that would be like, okay, let's just say that the drought doesn't go away. Let's just say that it costs. They have to take the alfalfa and the grains that all these grains that they're growing to feed these cows, right, in the West, because there's all these like irrigation fields, and all these irrigations is all irrigating to grow feed for cows. If that gets more and more expensive because there's not as much water, and the water that is there has to go to households, right? And it has to go to use by, then the cost of. So right now they're culling all the cows, right? So they can't afford to pay for the grain, so they're taking all the cows and they're selling them off in the market. And so what's going to happen now is the price of meat is going to go down. So beef and meat and ground meat and steak and all that is going to get cheap. But just temporarily, it'll get cheap for a little while, right? And then as that gets sold off and there's a herd less, the herds are smaller in the future, the price of meat will go up a lot more than it is now, and milk too. So whatever meat and dairy, that'll go up. And then the companies like Beyond Meat and Oatly and that are substitutes for the cows, they'll get more popular because people go, gee, I can't afford to. If a gallon of milk is like, if I got to pay like $12 or $15 for a gallon of milk, I'll get the gallon. I'll get that rice milk, or I'll get the oat milk, and that just as good as cow milk. It tastes good and it's healthy and it's cheaper. That's only like I can get a gallon of oat milk for $6 or $7 for a gallon of that, and it's just as good. I'll buy that. So your common average person out there that buys cow milk all the time, they'll switch to oat milk because it's cheaper. It tastes as good, right? So I'm thinking that if this drought continues, right, as an investor, I'm thinking, well, how can I invest? And I'm thinking, yeah, I'm vegan too. Yeah, that's my main reason. But I'm thinking, well, it'll be good too that that oat beverages made out of oats and hemp and soy, and so they use more of the actually crops that they're not growing things to feed animals as much as they used to. That'll taper off, and it'll be more directly to the consumer. The consumer will the plants that are grown will go directly to the consumer for food, and less for the animal using the grain to feed animals with. So it could be for that. Maybe. I could be wrong too. Maybe the stock will go down. Um, yeah, maybe you'll see farmland getting cheap too because they don't have any water anymore, so they'll be selling off all these farms. People are looking for a bargain on land, and then plus interest rates go up too. Then they have to lower the price because the banks they could get a cheap, they could buy a bigger house and pay less for interest on a loan. Now they have to pay more interest, so the people that are selling a house will have to lower the price of the house to 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 match the buyers that can only afford to borrow so much from the banks for mortgage. Yeah, I look at like land east of the Cascades is cheap. Here's 80 acres in Harney County for $45,000. I can't imagine owning 80 acres. It's out in the middle of nowhere, though. I don't even think there's a paved road. It looks like there's a dirt road. That's the problem. You got to buy, if you want to get land, it's always really far away from the cities. Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe I've been down here too long. Been out here too long. I'm thinking of, I think I have 60 shares of Verizon. There's another thing. And I'm thinking, like, well, if I want to diversify more into telecommunications and not have so much in one riding on one company and my percentage of my portfolio, because it's a big percentage. Verizon is a big percentage of my portfolio. Um, yeah, Verizon. I have 60 shares. I bought in. I'm averaging in at $48.43 a share. I'm currently in the red, 8.29%. So be not maybe it wouldn't be the right time to sell my Verizon. I'll wait for some equities. They don't follow the rest of the market. Like you'll see, like the market will go down, right? And all these stocks are like they're all connected to each other. It's like they all follow the same trend line. When the market moves, they move up or they move down, and they all move up and down at the same time. But there's certain companies that I have in my portfolio that that are like they're in other countries. They're not an American company. They're an ADR. They're over the counter, and they don't follow the trend like Japanese stocks. I know some Japanese stocks I have. They don't follow the like, and the market will move down, and they aren't moving down. They'll actually go up. So when they're going down, the rest of the Nasdaq or the U.S. or the Dow goes up or they go down, and they don't follow. So there's kind of like protection there. You think, oh, you can protect yourself from the rest of the market, right? Now SunOpta, that was a good one. I got in on that when it was down. I got in at $3.18. I have 80 shares of that, so I'm doing good. I'm up. SunOpta, I'm up 231% on that stock. It's one of the winners that I have. It's like the winners compensate for the losers. It's like Next Era Energy. Yeah, that's done good too. But I'm I don't want to put all of my eggs in one basket. I don't take a huge amount and just put it down on one thing too soon. What I'll usually do is just buy like one share and I'll wait and I'll watch the stock for a while. Because more likely than not, if I go all in too fast and it goes down, I miss that. I miss the opportunity to buy it when it's cheaper. So I don't know. I guess I'm gonna call it a night. I'm getting tired. And watch an old man in his house talking about the stock market. I notice most of the people on here are younger. They're usually in their 20s or 30s. It seems like people on YouTube. You don't see a lot of older people on here. Um, so I'm gonna call it a night. I was listening to my friend Jason, 15 degrees below zero, over there in. He lives in that, yeah. So he's talking about art and his experience in doing art and all that. And for me, it seems like it takes a lot of self discipline to be able to be an artist and be a lone artist, not have another person working with you on artwork on art projects. Now, if you were as like a person that had a studio, and then you had like you had certain equipment or materials there where you could charge somebody to come in if they wanted to be in your studio, and they could use whatever materials you had there. That was um, uh, that if you had a shared studio and you were both, if you had a group of people that were artists, right, and you all pitched in and rented out a studio, and you go to your studio and there'd be other people there doing artwork too. That would be more like inspiring or fun to do. But if you're just one guy that's on your own that does artwork on your own, that seems to me like hard to do. I mean, if I and being like, I think for me, I remember me, it was like it wasn't the end result that was what I was. It wasn't the end result that was that was fun. For me, it was more the process of creating. That was what was um, getting lost in creating something. Losing yourself in doing something is fun. That's where it's fun. So anyhow, I got to stop saying that word too much. It's getting late. It's getting late. And I thought it'd be nice to have like friends over and to have company and chit chat and have a cup of coffee and sit down, but not being high. All right, not smoking weed and doing the chat is something that's good. It's better for me. Um, for me, I'm not saying that weed is not for everybody either too. So if you live in a cannabis legal state and you have a choice between like, I'd say if you're involved in, if you're not going to travel, if you don't have to drive anywhere, and you don't have a job where you work at a drug free workplace, or you have a job, if you don't have a job that involves safety or the safety of other people, and you have leisure time and you're in your own home, and then cannabis might be something that's better than drinking, right? Look at this. Look at this old couch. Should I quit or should I keep going? Two people, somebody will say, "Yeah, measterpool. I think maybe you ought to call it a night." End the stream. Top chat. Top chat. What does this do? Top chat. Participants. Mr. Pool. Welcome to live chat. Remember to guard your privacy and abide by our community guidelines. Pop up chat. Okay. Let's go to pop up chat. Oh, okay. I didn't know you could do that. It might be easier to read that if I did that. I wonder, I'm going to try something here. If I do this, I'm going to give anything away by doing this. see my house. Want to see my house? It's my dining room. I have a bed in my dining room. It's actually a hospital bed. Actually, my wife passed away in it. I need to sell it, or I need to give it away to somebody that needs it. This is my kitchen in here. This is the kitchen. This is my refrigerator. See my refrigerator. See what I got in my fridge. Well, what I do is I buy water, right? I wonder if how many other people do this. When I buy this water, I just refill them up and I use them again and again and again and again. I don't throw these away. See, I wash them out. I take the label off and take that ring, that plastic ring. I rinse them out really good and I fill them up with water. I save money, you know. Why buy water when you just have bottles? You just refill them up from the tap. Our tap water, it's okay. It's okay here. I mean, it's not. It tastes okay. I gotta adjust myself now to living without getting high on weed. So I need to get on this thing more here. I haven't gotten on this thing for like a week. And like I was getting on this every day and going like an hour and a half on this thing every day. And lifting my weights, and then I turn my music on and I dance. But for me, I was like, now my teeth are bothering. Now my tooth is bothering me. I think I gotta go to the dentist. I'm not looking forward to that. Anybody out there that's an anti-natalist or a vegan or atheist? Is anybody out there that feels like in the real world, right? They're isolated because they don't share the same value. They don't think like other people around them. But me, I don't like confrontation though. I don't like having a confrontation. I'll avoid people. If I'm going to have a confrontation with somebody, I usually try to avoid them. And I've actually given this channel name out to people that I've met at meetings. So I won't be surprised if somebody I met at a meeting goes and watches my video. Oh, Mamoid, hey. I watch your videos now and then. They're kind of a mystery to me. I don't really, you're kind of like, you're not, they're more of an artistic kind of a video, I think. Like, there's another lady that watches my channel. Her name's Faith. I think that's her name. She watches my channel. But I think you might have been a subscriber to in Mendham, right? Is that how you found my channel? Or were you like looking for anti-natalists? Yeah, and Mendham, yeah. I think you knew it. You've been on the Mendham's channel. I know you've left comments on my channel too before. So, like, are you an atheist, or do you have like reservations about? Well, there could be like some kind of supernatural power that, or are you a complete atheist? You just accept everything just as exactly like it is, and not have any kind of, I mean, because I have to live. It's like I live in a world, right, where most everybody believes in they're Christian, or they believe in some kind of a God. So, but maybe that's because I go to AA meetings. Oh, that's good. Your mind is, but your mind works better actually. I mean, I found that it's kind of like it's clutter. You got clutter in your. Yeah. So, well, you see, what I look at is I look at what they found with the space telescopes. They keep when they look really at intent when they look down out into space and they see how many other galaxies there are and the extent of the size of the universe and how big it is, right? And in its scale, the size scale in the physical size, as well as the age and the potential further ages of the universe. I don't think I'm just here this one time, right? I mean, I think that I'm a physical brain, yes, and my memories are that's a physical thing, right? And I can't not I won't die and then come back and remember things and know who I am that I was before. I don't think that. And that's kind of that's the thinking of the old Indian way of thinking. Oh, you're going to come back and you're going to remember blah blah blah. You'll remember your life this time around. Not that. That's like not true. But to say that if we're made out of atoms, right? We are a finite state machine. We're a very complex machine, but we are a finite state machine. What's to say that, it's just going to happen this one time and that's it? Or it's just happened this one time and it never happened before, or it never will happen again? And then when you look at the size of the universe and you think, well, is it possible that this pattern is only going to happen one time? Okay, like how and why did I awaken to this particular body? Why not anyone else? Yeah, because if you think you're the only real person that is, then you're a solipsist, right? And no one is really a solipsist, but a solipsist would think they wouldn't think what you just said. A solipsist would really say, no, I'm the only one that's real and everyone else is like not real. And they don't, I know I'm aware of myself as I am. And there's other people that are there as just as much aware of themselves as I am. So I just happen to be a placeholder that was at such and such a period of time in these certain conditions were there. Well, if there was another, if I wasn't in that, if I didn't fall into that, into that, like I imagine this big roulette wheel, right? And there's a ball bouncing around, and there's other different numbers, and the ball bounced and it landed in that one slot, right? So I just happen to be that one slot at this time, and in the future, consciousness is universal. I mean, yeah. So if consciousness is universally experienced by everyone the same at different intensities, some people are more focused consciously; they're more aware of themselves than other people. There's people that are like that are mentally retarded, or they're babies, or they're like they're different. They're maybe uh, okay. There is an uncountable number. Okay, and that the infinite nothingness after death that most people seem to believe nowadays is pretty incomprehensible. Well, yeah, because you know what it's like to go to sleep and not experience the passage of time. You have personally experienced going to sleep and then waking up, and then your continuity is still there. You recall your past, and the continuity of your mind is in place. But if you were to go to sleep and then you were to not have that continuity, but then you woke up and it was all brand new, Yeah, that would be like a reincarnation without any, it would be, death is nature's ultimate anesthesia, right? It's the anesthetic. It's like you're getting anesthetized, but you're going to come back and you're not going to have the continuity of yourself. And you can't not know what it's like not to exist, right? I mean, I just happened to have an experience when it was a really dumb thing to do, right? I'm not gonna say exactly. Well, I had some ether, right? Diethyl ether. It was medical grade ether, and I was huffing it, and I was like going unconscious, getting closer and closer to being unconscious, and then I get conscious, and I take a whiff, and I get unconscious. People do it with nitrous oxide. It's the same thing. But if you've had that, if you know what I'm talking about, then you'll go, oh yeah, when you die, it's just an anesthetic and then nature or whatever, the universe or whatever, you're reconstituted in the same. If DNA is okay, the only way I could show demonstrable proof that you repeat is that, let's just say at your birth and everyone else's birth, they took a blood sample and they mapped your DNA out, right? They had a complete accurate mapping of your specific DNA. And they had a library of all the people that were born from that date forward all the way into the future. There's all these digital maps of everybody's DNA. And then there's a kid that's born and they take a sample of his DNA and they compare it to the computer bank of the memory of all the other DNA that's ever been, and they find a match. Then that's that same person, because they're physically identical to the person that's already been born 1,000 years ago or 500 years ago or however long the DNA mapping keeps on. So I'm saying if they could map DNA, then they would be able to prove that. Yeah. Thich Nhat Hanh, wasn't he Buddhist? Is he a Theravada Buddhist? He's not a Mahayana Buddhist. He's a Theravada Buddhist, right? I think I might have listened to one of his audiobooks. Yeah. Yeah, the day you're born, you continue from somewhere else. Well, it's a continuation. Well, it's brand new. I mean, for me personally, when I was born, everything was brand new for me. There is no, they call it Akashic records. I think that's what the New Age believers believe it is. And that there's a record that's a permanent record of your whole life, that's stored outside of your physical brain somewhere in the universe. And that might be just that might be an old holdover from the people that believe in reincarnation, that you reincarnate and you preserve the continuity of your former life. And I don't think that's as a scientific, I don't think there's any science to that. So Buddhism but for me, well, my experience of meditation and going to the meditation retreat that I went to, that I've done, there really was no any kind of experiences that I had that I could sense that I was someone else before this life. I think if anything at all, people dream, right? They go to sleep and they dream. I dream when I go to sleep. Sometimes I have incredible dreams, right? And it would be really easy to confuse a dream that I had with, oh, maybe that was another life, when I dreamt that dream. Because I've dreamt like that I'm other people. I've dreamt that I'm another person, that I'm in another country, I'm talking another language, I'm in a crowded place. And so it would be like real easy for me to I'm imagining it, right? Was it Inception? Is that oh, hi, Jason. Yeah, good to see you. Yeah. If I ever go to Montana, you'd be the reason you'd be the only person I'd want to go to see in Montana. So if I'm ever driving through Montana or have a reason to go to Montana, I'll stop by and say hello. I'd like to see your artwork there, everything. Chit chat with you for a while. I've never done DMT. I did LSD once. I did a piece of blotter acid one time, and it was like, it wasn't what was sold to me. The people that were using it, that what I saw while they were using it, they seemed to have it. They seemed to have been. When they took it, it was like they were on a carnival ride. But when I took it, it was like I thought I was dead, and that I was a ghost, and I had passed away, and I was like on this other place, and I had left my body behind. I was dead, and I could no longer. My passage, I was in this existential passage into another place, and I could never go back. And I intensely had that experience while I was on LSD, and I didn't like it. It was like, and the people I was with that I thought were like people I knew, that were my friends, that were people I were hanging out with, they were like complete strangers to me. Who are these people? Like, where am I? What am I doing here? And I'm like, we're all dead like that. So I didn't. It was like I only had it one time, and that's it. That's all I needed. I'll never have it again. But DMT, I think, is the same thing, isn't it? It's supposed to open up your mind. See, for me, the meditation is better than any other drugs. When I went to the 10-day Vipassana meditation, that was like way better than any drug I ever took. Meditating for a long period of time. And it was easy to do there because it's set up for that. So they make it easy for you to meditate there because everybody else is there is meditating, and they're giving you instructions, and it's they have an itinerary there. So it was easy to follow along. And I experienced my own body differently than I normally would. I was experiencing like myself, like inside of my body, as if I was this, like I was like a tiny little astronaut that was moving around inside of my own body. So when I was meditating, I was like moving my consciousness inside of my skin, up into my neck, inside of the rest of through my body, and I was moving my awareness of myself as a small center of awareness. I could be inside of my own body. That's what I was experiencing when I was meditating there. And it was like really weird because while I was doing that, I was like, a lot of things that I forgot from my childhood and early adult life that I thought I forgot about came back. I was remembering a lot of things that I had forgotten about too. So the meditation when I was doing it there, that's what was happening to me. There wasn't any really weird supernatural or anything like that things happening, but that, yeah, dreams totally simulated reality, an inner simulation, but yeah, we see it somewhat as a simulation. Our brain produces an approximation. Yeah. Well, when they show somebody goes through a doorway and they go to the beach and then they close the door and they walk along the beach and then they're in a building and then they go into a building and then they open the door and they go in from another building and then they're in a house. To me, that's what happens in dreams when I dream. But I'm dreaming and it'll be a one moment. I'll like all of a sudden I'll be like aware that, wow, I'm in a dream. I'm really at home. I'm in bed sleeping. And this is just I'm making this up as I go along. But I'll have that one fleeting thought and then it'll go away and I'll go be caught up in the dream again. So if you can control your dreams, if you can it's not so much as controlling your dream, it's becoming aware that you're dreaming while you're dreaming. Like an equivalent of injecting noise into an artificial intelligence model to help it generalize when training. Well, I hear what Mendeham says about artificial intelligence, and I have to agree with Mendeham when he says that it's not really an intelligence until it feels, right? It's not it's not actually self-aware until it feels that it is. Until it feels, then it's not really a consciousness, an artificial consciousness. Now you can make an artificial intelligence that's like so sophisticated that it could drive your car for you, that it has enough cameras and sensors, and it's been really trained really good, so it knows how to respond to different conditions in the environment. Every possible thing that could happen driving along a road, it could respond to that. That's an artificial intelligence, but not an artificial consciousness. That's something, no. And I think people get the two things confused. They think, oh, if it's an artificial intelligence, it must be an artificial consciousness. No, that's a consciousness that's artificial is way, way, way past an artificial intelligence. You can make something that would mimic mimic consciousness, but not really be conscious. If you've seen Black Mirror, there's an episode called "I'll Be Right Back," and that's kind of like what artificial intelligence would be. It would be a robot that would look like the person, it would act like the person, it would just be programmed to respond like the program. I know, it requires it. Well, organic or non-organic is the same, right? I mean, material, matter. So you mean something that's like grown in a laboratory from an existing substrate that would be like a brain. You could grow a human brain in a laboratory and then overwrite the cells with a program so that it would wake up and be a consciousness. Yeah, if it was an existing tissue culture that was made from the pattern of a real human brain, yeah, I'm sure you could make an artificial consciousness. But reverse engineering a human brain molecule by just reverse engineering the structure of a human being, a blank slate, and then writing a program into it, or waking it up with electricity or whatever, then it would be artificial consciousness. Yeah, it would be like scary. I think we're if you see that movie, it was RoboCop. Remember the RoboCop scene where they were trying different people's brains? They were taking them out and they were putting them in a robot, and then they would freak out, right? And there was a science fiction movie on Amazon Prime, and they did that. It was a show, and they knew they were conscious and they freaked out. What am I doing? I'm a machine. And the guy was like going crazy because he woke up as a machine. Yeah. All right. I feel like I died on the operating table and I woke up in hell. Everything is the same except I can no longer do the things that I used to. Yeah, that would be hell, right? If somebody made you into an artificial consciousness, it would be like hell, yeah. So you couldn't escape. It would be forced to be awake all the time. It would be like you could never sleep too. That would be hell, If you could never sleep, you were always awake, and you couldn't escape from you were locked into a computer program like a matrix, and you couldn't get out of it. There was never any novelty to it. It was always the same. Yeah, so in the future, if somebody wants to create an artificial consciousness, it's more likely than not, if somebody does that, if scientists are able to create an artificial consciousness, it would seem to me like it would turn on them. It would turn on its creators. So it would be dangerous to do that. Unless you could create it and then put it in a really pleasant environment where it was really it had challenges, and it was like pleasant to be there. It was like new things, novel things were always happening with it. And it was completely content to be there, and that. So it would have to be well thought out plan of where that consciousness how it would emerge. Who knows? Maybe we are that. Maybe the universe needed us for novelty. I was listening to they were interviewing Elon Musk, and someone asked him, it was like at his house, and they were all sitting around. His sycophants were there in a room, and they were asking him questions. And one of them was, do you think there's a reason, there's a purpose to life being here? And it was like he said, well, the universe needs us here so it could be conscious of itself. And I'm like thinking, huh? The universe needs consciousness? No, universe doesn't need consciousness. No, consciousness was is kind of a mistake, I think. I mean, if the Ephelis, if Ephelism is the truth, right? If that's the way it's going to be in the end, right? If there has to be some kind of a graceful exit for everything. I argue with my girlfriend. She believes in God. She believes in God, and I say, well, let's just imagine that you're really God, right? And you woke up and there was nothing, right? You just was this consciousness, and then after all this time, eons and eons and eons and eons of all this there was no one there at all, right? It was just everything, just the universe. Just to say, it was emptiness, right? There was nothing. It was completely black. It was no temperature at all. There was no inside, outside, up, down, left, right, forward, backward. There was no math. There was nothing at all. It was just complete blank emptiness, nothingness, right? And then you woke up. Somehow consciousness emerged out of the nothing, and it would go, oh, wow, I'm here. I'm all by myself. I'm all alone. All this consciousness, right? Well, that's like what Elon Musk thinks, that there was somehow this consciousness, the universe is this consciousness that woke up, and it needs other consciousnesses here for its own, to be like, not be all by itself, maybe. I don't know. But that's like someone that, if you think that, then you really think there's a God, right? That the universe, maybe the whole universe is this God that woke up and there was from nothing. And we're just here as amusements for that. We're here to just take its time, to use up its time, or we're a form of amusement. So in a way, if someone really does believe in a God, if you take it to that, like William Lane Craig, if you take it to the extent that William Lane Craig takes it to, he believes in the Boltzmann's brain kind of a God. That's what I'm talking about. That there was nothing for forever and ever and ever. And then all of a sudden there was a Boltzmann's brain, and it started imagining, and it could just imagine anything it wanted to for its own enjoyment. It could create its own matrix, right? And that's where we're at. We're just part of that Boltzmann's brain that's making up all this as it's going along. Yeah. Yeah, consciousness is merely a byproduct of evolutionary advantage. Yeah, it's just a game that all the molecules are playing. The atoms are playing games with themselves. Yeah, it's a one-upmanship. It's just like a contest between one group of atoms against another group of atoms to be more elaborate. How much novelty can it be? How much more novel can it be in the next from iteration to iteration to iteration? And it doesn't have any goal or objective. It's just its own. It's just to maintain its existence. It's just to stay around and forever. For what end? Doesn't have any end, really. It's just to, unless what I'm saying, if there really is a God, right, and that's the God's agenda. It's just this, to create novelties. The universe, if the universe wanted, but the universe in itself doesn't have any consciousness that we know of, macro. It's just we are little micro states of consciousness within the universe itself that grew out of it, like an apple grows on an apple tree. I think Alan Watts said that. Anthropic principle, yeah. How can you have scale or motion or if there's no relationships, if no one's there to measure a relation, right? if you can't have something relative to something else in scale or proportion or weight or any kind of measurement made at all with a mind, if there's no mind to measure, then nothing exists. Nothing qualitative, but quantitatively it exists, but not qualitatively. And I think who was it? Jeffrey Mishlove in the Thinking Aloud series, he interviewed a scholar of religions. He was a scholar of comparative religions, and one of his things that he said was that there's consciousness because there wouldn't be any qualities if there wasn't a mind to experience the quantities, right? So the quantities all exist. You still have solidity, you still have energy and solidity, right? And motion, but you don't have a measure. You're not measuring it in any qualitative way. Oh, I can't remember his name. He's kind of white-haired guy. He's a religious studier, studies religion. Yeah, consciousness in the universe. Yeah, there could be other universes. Well, don't even think about other universes. Think about the extent of the universe that we know, right? How big, it's just how huge an extent, not only in the extent in time, but extent in size of our own universe. That in itself is a sets it's so big that it would set a precedent for lots of novelty that we don't know about, right? There's other places. Like I think consciousness could be inside of a star, right? I think there could be, like, out of all the billions and billions and billions and billions and gazillions of stars, that maybe a star, the way that the atoms are inside of the star, the plasma, it could be arranged in such a way as to produce a kind of consciousness in the star. So maybe in the universe somewhere out there, there's consciousness inside of in a star. So I wouldn't completely discount the idea of alien life being not something that we would think would be an alien life form. But there could be like a whole sphere, a giant world that's an alien. That's the world. That world has the property of consciousness because of the arrangement of the atoms that the sphere is, or the materials arranged in such a way it could be a consciousness. So we're looking for things that are similar to us, but maybe there are things out there that's life that we don't, that are at a different scale completely. They're not even proportional to the scale of life as we understand it. But there's just, like, the universe is so big, it's so huge and massive that use your imagination. If it's physically possible, right? If the laws of physics will allow for that, then don't say it's impossible. Don't say, oh, you're crazy to think that. No, if it's possible and it's that big in the extent, there could be a place where it's that way, right? If all the conditions could statistically exist for that to happen, then it can happen because it's so big. Yeah, Goldilocks universe. But if you don't believe, see, this is a really hard problem. It's really hard to not be an idealist, like Berkeley, right? If the tree falls in the forest and no one's there to hear it fall, well, does it still fall if no one knows it falls? Well, it's easy to think that way a lot. It's easy to think that you need someone here to know it's here in order for it to exist. But it's not that way. Real science, hard science, says that the cosmos exists independent of there being someone there that knows that it's there, right? We know that. I think our woo here is so strong that we want to think otherwise. We want to think that we're so important that the universe needs consciousness to be here for it to exist, but it doesn't. It's all qualitatively, yeah. It doesn't have the qualities aren't there. If there's no consciousness there, there's no qualities. But quantitatively, it is still there physically. Well, they get the species or whomever's on the world. They get so smart that they all become effortless and they end their planet. Is that what the doomsday argument is? Or is it the von Neumann probes? There's a von Neumann probe, and it's a machine, and it's like Voyager on that Star Trek, the movie where where Voyager goes out and it gets captured by an alien, and they reconfigure it to where it's out to destroy anything that's not perfect, like that. Is that the doomsday argument, or is it something like that? I don't know. Panpsychism. Panpsychism is not sure what panpsychism is. Is that like pantheism? Well, pantheism is where you believe everything is God. Panentheism, I think that's where you believe everything is God, but it doesn't have any. It's a dumb God. It's still there, but it doesn't have any real. It doesn't interact with its subparts, you know. How we might expect to find ourselves living when most humans are living. Therefore, humans would only have 800 years still left till extinction. So do we make ourselves go extinct from our own intelligence? We get too dangerous for ourselves. Like, okay, let's just say that the scientists have a secret organization they have a secret group that knows really the real truth about everything, and they've uncovered knowledge about how the universe works. And if ever that knowledge got out, that it would be dangerous, and if somebody misused it, they could just destroy everything. So the scientists that know, they have really high, there's like psyops involved in making sure that if the people that are out to really find out the truth, they throw up roadblocks to keep them from ever finding out this information. Because if the real information ever got out to the public, then the public would be destroy itself from that information. It's kind of like, well, they know about the atom, right? So when the atom got out, now everybody has atomic bombs. So we're like always on the edge of our seat. There's a sword of Damocles held over our heads, so that we're not going to use. If we use our nuclear weapons, if they use their nuclear weapons, we'll use our nuclear weapons, and we'll all destroy everybody. Will destroy everybody else. So no one uses a nuclear weapon. But there's another kind of weapon, right? If they go deeper into the science, maybe they can make a bomb that would be like, if they knew such and such of such and such, that knowledge, then someone would make that bomb, and then it would just completely annihilate everything. And no one wants that to happen. At least the people that know it, they don't want it to happen. So I don't know about that. That's just me. Maybe I'm just talking nonsense. Maybe I'm just a conspiracy. It's a conspiracy about that there are some people that are really, really, really smart, and they just want to keep most people dumb. And they only want people smart enough to be able to do their jobs. And they don't want anyone really looking in too deeply into what nature is and not trying to really understand it, because if somebody does that, then it'll spoil everything, you know? See, it always amazes me is when people speak in terms of people in the future being them. Like somehow when people speak of us in the future, like it's going to be me and you, and we're going to be millions of years in the future, but really it'll be our descendants, right? It won't be me and you. It won't be us. It'll be other people, but it won't be you. It won't be first person. It'll be someone else. But it's always referred to like somehow we're going to be there and we're going to see the end of the universe. Somehow we're going to be there and witness the end, right? Or we're going to be witnessing things that happen millions of years from now. Us, me, I'll be there, you'll be there. But that, it's always worded like that. But it's, they should say, well, the people of the far future may experience such and such. It won't be us. It won't be you and me, which is kind of always like, maybe that's a grammatical thing, Or they say, we evolved, you and I evolved. No, you and I didn't evolve from apes. It was our ancestors evolved from apes, right? There was a gradual process. Well, I look at like the Georgia Guidestones, right? And I'm thinking, are the Georgia Guidestones, and how many people were really behind the Georgia Guidestones? Was that just one group of people, a small group of people, or was there a whole other group? Was it a religion? Yeah, we borrow the world from our descendants. Exactly. So I like to think of a camping trip, right? Let's just say you go on a camping trip and you arrive at the campground. And it's all pleasant and nice. There's firewood. There's lots of green grass. It's clean. The water's clean. Everything's like pristine. And then you camp out and you're like, you're digging up the ground. You get some stuff in and it goes, and then you cut some firewood and you have a fire, and then you get, you mess it up a little, and then you leave, right? And then when the next people get there and they camp there, it's dirty and messy, and it's then they go and they leave it worse and worse, right? And if finally someone gets there and they camp out and it's terrible, it's all dirty and everything. So in a way, humans are kind of like that. We're camping. The Earth is kind of a big campground, and every time new generations come here, we just reduce it. We leave it less habitable than when we got here, So yeah, in a way, we are going to make ourselves extinct because people are selfish. They think we're the only generation. They only think short term. They don't think past a few years. They don't think, oh, I better be living like it matters how I live and how I use resources and how I navigate myself in the world and how I consume things, and not overconsume, not use more than I need and take more than I need, not abuse the world, abuse the earth, but try to live my life like lightly, walk lightly on the earth, use less, be happy and content with less, not require so much, but we're not like that. It's like everybody wants to live like a rock star. They want to be Jeffrey Epstein and Michael Jackson, and they want to have like an entourage, but it's crazy. I think what's going to happen is that we might end up like the Telosians. I think if there's more technology in the future, the elites they'll live underground, right? Because it won't be habitable on the surface of the earth anymore, and space will be too expensive. So the people that think, oh, we're going to go into space, we're going to go colonize Mars, we're going to go to the moon and make asteroids and capture them and make things out of the asteroids and blah, blah, blah. That's probably not going to happen. The way I see things, if technology improves and if we just keep on going forward with technology, that people are going to live underground, right? They're going to build these big cities underground, and the elites, the people that have a lot of money and they have access to a lot of technology, it'll be more roboticized, more automated. They'll use nuclear power and they'll build big cities underground and cut themselves off from the people that live on the surface. Kind of like that movie, A Boy and His Dog. I think that's more like the future than going to Mars. Yeah. Mossad. Random teacher becomes billionaire getting presidents on his plane out of nowhere. Metro 2033. Well, sad. Okay, I'm not sure what that is. Is that a movie? Well, that's Don't Look Up, right? Remember how they left the Earth and yeah. That was kind of a dumb movie. I mean, some of it was good. Oh, a book, a game. Okay. Is that a video game? Metro 2020, Metro 20. Oh, well, I've been on here 2 hours. Oof. Wow. Yeah, I'm getting tired. Wow. I think I'm going to go to bed, you guys. It's been interesting talking with you, though. Since I've had this long discussion with you, I'm going to be more mindful of your videos and watch your videos more. At least I'm glad that someone comes in here, they make videos too, so you can get to know other people, not more than just people that don't make videos. Yeah, I'm still like waiting for a video game that I would like to play more than the ones that are out there. I would like to play something more like the video game called Soulbringer. In the video game Soulbringer, that game, like I had dreams about that game because it was so ephemeral. Okay, I'll look for those. Yeah, I'll look for those videos. With me, I really don't have an agenda on here. I'm not really, there's nothing I'm selling. I don't have anything that, I'm a seller here, buy this, look at the link and I'll go there and you can buy my mug or my t-shirt or something. I'm not really, or a book or something like that. Yeah. I don't really care because when I had a job and I was working full time, I was like really kind of more vigilant about my image in that and what I wanted the world, how I wanted the public to see me, because I didn't want my coworkers and my boss, because it might affect my job. So now I'm retired, I really don't care as much. A lot of my focus and my attention is in the stock market right now. It's hard to do though. It's like it's like I feel like I'm walking on eggshells because I could lose like a lot of money like that if I'm not careful. If I do something dumb. No margin trading, no options, just simple basic, just buying a stock, holding it, watching it, studying it, trading a little bit out of that, getting another stock, getting into that, seeing how that's going to do. And if it goes up, I go and I take a little bit off the top. If it's not, more likely, if it's not a company that's paying dividends, I'll trade that more. I'll do more swing trading on my non-dividend paying stocks. See, for me, that's gambling because it's not a real representation of a real thing. It's just a number. It's just a series of numbers. So it doesn't really, I don't get excited by it. But maybe if you're younger and you think that maybe if you're a miner, right, and you got equipment and you're mining the Bitcoin like that, or mining Dogcoin or whatever coin you're mining, and you have a rig, right, and you're into that, then that would be, to me, that would make sense. If you have a rig and you're generating the algorithms or the what is it, what do they call it? It's like a, yeah, the future of money. Bitcoin is kind of in the future of money. The future of money will be a cryptocurrency. But it might be that Amazon has a cryptocurrency and Walmart has their own cryptocurrency and McDonald's has a cryptocurrency. And so when you use their cryptocurrency, it's only good for things you can buy from them. Or you go to a casino and you use like whatever casino you're in, they have their own crypto. You go in and you take your money and you put it into, and then you get crypto from the casino. And then when you go to the tables for cards or the slot machines or whatever, everything's in their coin. So cryptocurrencies, I see more like that. You know what I mean? It doesn't. I can't just see them on standalone without anything behind them, backing them. Now, when El Salvador, when they adopted Bitcoin, that was more of an eye opener for me. I went, oh wow, now it's like, okay, now there's a government that's using it for their currency, and I thought, ooh, yeah, that's kind of more. And then when APMEX and SD Bullion and the other bullion companies, the gold and silver bullion companies, when they start accepting Bitcoin, you know, that's like gold and silver. They'll give you, you can take a Bitcoin and buy gold and silver with it. I thought, wow, it must be something. But I don't have any. I mean, if somebody gave some to me, I'd just be okay. But when it first started out, I didn't think it was any. I thought it was like Beanie Babies or any other fad. You know, I didn't know and the people aren't going to take this seriously. It's just going to be like, oh, some rich person made it, and then they're going to get everybody to get in, and then they're going to sell it, and then it'll go to nothing. And it's a game. Someone's playing a game, and they're trying to game me out of my money. They're going to think, oh, you can get rich too. Here, get into this, and then you get into it, and then it's like, then it gets dumped. So I thought it was just a game that was pump and dump. Something that was from like World of Warcraft. Because I know World of Warcraft, you'd have to use the money in the game to buy like an avatar or a weapon, and that was like a current crypto. That was like one of the first cryptos I think was in World of Warcraft. So I really didn't understand it. So it was like I missed out, you know. So I missed out. I didn't get in early enough. Now, if it was under $1 and then I got into it and I had like 100 of them, and I would be like, oh, wow, I'd be all excited about it, but never got in it early enough. So you're responsible for the entire section in the employee handbook because of my image. Oh, wow. That's really cool. Well, yeah, you know, and you live in a small town too. I'm talking, 15 degrees below zero. You're in a small town, so yeah, you're representing your whole town to the world almost, right? I mean, how many other people do you know that live in your town that have a YouTube channel? So you're like so you got to be okay. But I always think, what about climate change, right? How is that? If you think about climate change and then think about investing, where do you invest to take advantage of? I don't like to sound like I'm being bad, that I'm taking advantage of a bad situation, but if you could position yourself in stocks that if the droughts get more and hydroelectric dams go dry and the rivers dry up, and there's less electricity being produced from hydropower, and there's less water, and there's more severe storms and floods. And what do you invest in, or how do you invest in something that you can position yourself to take advantage of that? So when those things keep happening, it keeps getting worse and worse and worse, you make more money from that. And still be ethical at the same time, right? So as an investor, I think like that. Yeah, it's a what do they call it? It's a ledger, right? It's an electronic ledger of accountability of where the units are designated, right? So each unit is designated through an encryption that you have a certain proportion of that, of the limited number of those units, and everyone has it checks itself. It's built-in checks and balance. It checks on itself, so no one can cheat it. Yeah, okay, I understand. Yeah, but how do you price it though? What it's really worth? I mean, if you could if you had a coin that was backed by an ounce of silver, right? If you had a Bitcoin or a cryptocurrency that was 1 ounce, that crypto unit was 1 ounce of silver, a physical silver. That would be different, right? So you could go to an exchange, and then they'd send you the silver, or you had it backed up in a vault somewhere. Governments are trying to make their currency more open and programmable like that now. Yeah, because it'd be like they know where everything's being spent, right? They have a real someone somewhere can look into the record and see how much everybody's spending on gasoline, how much everybody's spending on entertainment, how much everybody's spending on these groceries or this kind of commodity. So it's all, no one has money that's a secret that no one knows how much they have, and you're not doing anything you can do and do it behind and not pay taxes. So the government has issued a crypto, and they have full knowledge about where it's been, what it's being used for, and who has how much, instead of dollars, right? So yeah, green energy. You have to be more specific about green energy. I think there's a guy called Just Have a Think. Do you listen to him? His channel's Just Have a Think. And he goes on and on and in depth about different kinds of renewable energy, and how they're doing different kinds of battery technology and ways of storing energy. And pretty good channel, really like him. Just Have a Think. Yeah. No demand, no value, infinite supply, no value. Okay, they make up a dumb thing. Yeah, they can just keep making more and more of it. Yeah. And that's scary, right? They can just and they can turn you off too, right? If they don't like what you're doing, they can make it so that you can't use your money. They lock it up, lock your own money you have. They lock it up if everything's crypto, yeah, or if everything's on the government, So yeah, okay. Oh yeah, the crypto that's backed by works of art. Well, and they're saying that they can use a title on property too. Also, they're going to make that into a crypto, an NFT, so they can have your land that you own, instead of there being a record at the county that's on paper, that's filed away. That when you gain title to the property, they record it. It's recorded as a digital asset. Yeah, it's an NFT. Yeah, so they're going to do that with property too. I can see that happening. And you can trade it, on the market. Yeah, you can have your house and yeah. Anyhow, so yeah, just cryptocurrency. I don't understand it well enough to be able to want to invest in it. And it's on Robinhood. You can actually go on Robinhood and buy cryptocurrencies, but I never. It's just like maybe I'm too old. Too old guy. Maybe that's for younger people that are in their that are old. All stocks are reckoned. No, anyway. Yeah, they're recorded that way. They're as digital. Yeah. There's no stock certificates that are paper. Yeah, I understand that. But it's more established. Yeah. Oh, wrecked. Or recorded? Yeah, wrecked. Okay. But to me, it's too much like a game. It's not, Whereas the stock market's more like you really own part of the company, and there's a real asset there that's backed by what you have you have a record. They have a record of how much you have, and that's established. So whereas a cryptocurrency is like, is that as much as there ever will be of that, or they could create more? Can they subdivide it and then sell it off and make it where it's, what do they call it? They make it more. What is it when they create more stock? They create more than there is. They to raise money, they actually keep creating more shares. Yeah, that's a problem too, and that's a smaller companies do that. Your lower capital companies do that. They'll they'll wash out the value of the stock by creating more shares. They'll issue more shares. Yeah, yeah. Buybacks is, they do that instead of issuing dividends. They'll buy back the stocks, raise the value of the stock. You know what I had? I owned the company Sunrun. It was called Run, right? And I owned that company, and then they split. Maxion Solar split off from Run. And that was one time, I was glad I bought that stock because they split off from that. And that's neat when they do that. And then I had Volt, VOLT. I owned like 100 shares of Volt because I used to work for them. And I thought, oh, I'll buy the stock because I worked for them, right? And it kept going up, it kept going up, and it kept going up. And I thought, and then they get an offer, right? Oh, they want this one private firm or private whatever wants to buy Volt, so they offered everybody $6 a share, and I said, yeah, sure, and I sold it. I made like, I doubled my money. I was like, oh, I doubled my money. It was nice. It's nice when you make money, you don't lose money. Yeah. But if I hear about meme stocks, and I go, no way, I'm staying away from that, because you can't really determine how much of a value that stock is. If it's a meme stock, it's just people playing a game. And if you're not in the game and you don't know what's going on with the other players and how much they're putting in and who's the player, and then yeah, I owned the AMC, and that was like way a long time ago, and it was before it was ever a meme stock. I thought, this looks like it's a good deal because it went down a lot, and I thought everybody's got to stay at home from the thing, right? Because everybody's wearing masks and there's social distancing and no one's going out. The theaters are closing, right? And I thought, wow, AMC stock, it's cheap, right? Because everybody's bailing out on it because everybody thinks, oh, no one's going to go to the movies. And I had like 100 shares AMC, and then it was like, it went up and it was like going up, and I thought, oh, I better get out of it because it's just going to go down again. So I sold it, and then it still went up more, and I was like going, damn, why did I get out of it? I could have held on to it, and I could have made a lot more, yeah. And those are like, yeah, GameStop. You miss out because you're not in the ground floor, unless you're in on the ground floor and it. The way I see it is you got to really do your homework and discover the companies that are valuable before they get out on the news, before the Kramers and all the analysts and the people like that all make it into a big thing, and they all get out and they say, oh, look at this, look at this, look at this, and they make a big thing in the news. By that time you hear about it from those guys, it's too late. If you bought it then, you'll lose money because it's, and it's already done its thing. They're just telling you what already happened. All the news, most of the mainstream media, the news, the business news, they're only telling you after the fact, they're not giving you any heads up on it. By the time they're giving you heads up, it's too late. Yeah. With me, it's like that old adage: slow and steady wins a race. I'm the hare and not the I'm the tortoise and not the hare. Yeah, I got to get going. I don't know. It's getting late here. God, damn, I've been on this a long time. But I have a Robinhood account. It really is like I really like to use the Robinhood account. The Robinhood account, it just I have Schwab, I have Ameritrade, and I have their apps, but it just doesn't have that how easy it is to get in and out and put orders in that. It's just so much easier in Robinhood. And I don't know why Robinhood, they don't have the same ADR fees that Ameritrade has. On Ameritrade, I get these ADR fees, and it's like, wow, they're charging me this, and it's like, like the taxes and all that, and I don't get that same from Robinhood. They don't give me the same fees that I get from the other ones. But they don't have over the counter trading, so that's there's a lot of companies that are over the counter that are on there. So I have very good food companies. I have 2,555 shares of very good food company, and I'm down 75%. I have Village Farms, which is like the Village Farms is a cannabis company, and they not only have the big greenhouses for cannabis, but they're growing vegetables too. They're growing like cucumbers and tomatoes and salad greens and that. And I thought, what a good thing to have. And they're doing like green energy. They're doing like biomass or for to heat their greenhouses, and they're selling some of their power to other places. But Village Farms, to me, it makes sense because they have three different things going on. Not only are they in the cannabis, but they also have vegetables and that in a greenhouse in Canada. So I'm holding out. That's like one of my biggest cannabis positions is Village Farms, but I'm down on that one too. But it's like Solo, Electromechanica, a three-wheeled car. Yeah. Good night, Jason. I hope you make it in the art world. I hope you know that you got talent. You do. You just get your talent. Get down there in your basement and start doing your art again. Or have like a studio, a place you can go that's set up that's easy to get to and use that. And there's other artists there that are around. Maybe you can like work together on projects and stuff. That would be, for me, it would be like doing a project and working with other artists and not just being a one artist and one guy all alone by himself. It would be, to me, I would like that more. Personally, I would like that more, to do that as an artist, if there is such a thing. But people are like so independent, it's, I don't know. In the movie industry is more that way. You like working with a team of other people because a movie is art, right? I mean, if you look at it that way. So I have Blink charging. I have Charge Point. I have here's a company in India, right? And there's solar power in India. And I think out of all the places in the world where they should have solar for like electric, there should be gas cars or gas motorcycles or anything gasoline. If India goes all electric and they're all on renewable energy, India will do really good. I think that I'm really hopeful for that country, for the people there, and China too. I don't think China's more like this country, but they're not. I don't know. It's Azure Power. Yeah, Azure Power, $11.03 a share. I got 65 shares. I'm averaged in at 1682, and it's at 1103 right now, so I'm down on it. But I'm thinking they're going to do good. I think that if they engages in development of production and sale of solar energy, government utilities, independent industrial commercial customers. 471 employees, New Delhi, India. So that, and then I bought another company called Renew Power. It's another one in India, and it has done a little bit better. I'm trying to find it on my list here. So Renew. Maxon Solar. Maxon Solar. They recently had their earnings report and they did lousy, so the stock went down. Maxion Solar, and that was the one that spun off from Run. RUN Run or Sun. I think it's yeah. I have Mountain Pass Materials. Mountain Pass Materials is one of the only places in the northern hemisphere on the continental U.S. where they are mining rare earth metals. I'm thinking, with this new initiative that they passed, what is it, the global or the green, the buyback green energy or whatever the Biden administration that just went through. Yeah. So how is this all this government money? How's that going to affect the renewable energy industry? I have 3 shares of Kyocera. EVgo, that's another one that's a charge where they have electric car charging. EVgo, and they're out of Denmark, I think. Yeah. No, EVgo is in Los Angeles. Okay, EVgo engages in the provision of electric vehicle charging station services. Offers EVgo network. Of course, Tesla, they have all their own charging stations, and they have the groundwork already made for that put in place. So it's going to be really competitive to have separate electric vehicle charging. ConAgra, I have that. I bought 2 shares of Google. Yeah. Newell Industries, they're pretty good. I have some of that. Oh, here it is. RNW. RNW is like Renew Energy Global. Okay, I have 31 shares of Renew Energy Global at $6.53 is my dollar cost average, and they're at 7.26. So I'm in the green. I'm doing good on that. But I'm really into renewable energy. I really think there is a future in renewable energy. And that's excluding nuclear power. I mean, I think nuclear power is like could be good, but human beings, we're too dumb, right? There's too many safeguards that have to be put in place for nuclear power to be safe, right? Think about safety and think about nuclear power. It's just like and waste too, those two things. Now with wind and solar, and even wave power or geothermal, you don't have the problem of waste disposal that you have with nuclear. Anyhow, I'm going to hit the hay here. It's getting too late. So, but it was nice to talk with you, chat with you, Memoid and Jason. Have a good night. Take it easy, and you might see me in the future. Unfortunately, I might make this private, or I might just edit this and repost it as an edited video. So sorry to have to say that, but I might have to do that. So I don't know. You might see me in the future. Take care. Have a good one. Good night.